My brother passed away from cancer. He was the one that very much took care of me growing up. As soon as he said, "Hello, Billy," I knew this was my brother, Peter. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Veil. Today, we hear from Bill Tortorella, who shares his incredible near-death experience. He journeyed through a tunnel of light, met spiritual guides, and returned with life-changing insights about love and the future of humanity. And my name is Bill Tortorella, and I had a near-death experience in 1994 while I was out in Tucson, Arizona, working at a trade show. And during the show, it was actually one of our longest shows of the year. It was a 14-day trade show. And I did them for years already. At the show, people working the show during the second, third day actually started getting sick. And the third day, I was working my booth, and just the lady across from me, she just actually collapsed in her booth. And I had to come and pick her up with an ambulance. I was still fine. I remember on the fourth day, it hit me hard. I got deathly ill from this virus. I don't know if it was just going around the whole city or how big it was, but according to the people I spoke to in the medical clinics and the hospital, they said it was massive, like terrible, terrible, terrible flu or some kind of virus. This happened to be the biggest in the gem and mineral show in the year in the country. So people from all over the world came. It wasn't just at the convention center. The show was also set up in every ballroom, hotel in the whole city. I even had vendors working out of their hotel rooms. So we were used to people getting sick at that show because it was just normal that someone had a cold or a virus, but this one happened to me. And when this virus hit me, it closed down my whole throat. I could barely breathe. My fever was super high. I felt so weak at the show, I had to leave. I got to the hospital. The hospital, there's a lot of people. They checked us out slightly, and then they asked us if we don't mind attending and going to a different, like, medical clinic. And I went to this medical clinic. First thing they put me on was oxygen there, and they told me my oxygen levels were very low. I remember them talking about giving me intravenous antibiotic, and they also gave me an inhaler before I left. And they had told me, yes, they said, if you feel this way in the morning, just get yourself in the hospital any way you can. And that night turned into the night of light and love. I remember the way I left my body. I seen myself leave my body through my eyes in this beautiful, beautiful, glowing mist. It was magnificent. I mean, when I was in the mist, now hovering above my body, looking down upon myself, I knew it was me. It looked like the body was racked in pain. It wasn't moving. And I believe that from what I remember and was taught on the other side is that the spirit waits around the body to make sure the body has no life left in it, and that it's completely dead. And I remember hovering for a while, but it got to a point where I started feeling this amazing, beautiful feeling of love. The love was so wonderful. It engulfed me. And at this time now, I didn't even recognize the body on the bed. And I remember brightness coming all from all sides of me. I was still looking down upon the bed and my body down there. But I remember at this time when the brightness hit, I remember turning and this beautiful gateway of light opened. It drew me right into this unbelievable tunnel of light with magnificent colors. Everything was magnified. Like the color itself was magnified. It felt to me like hundreds or maybe thousands of times the beauty of it. And now I started moving. And the love I was talking about kept increasing. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was amazing. I felt like I became beloved in this light. And then I remember my arrival. And this part was unbelievable. I heard this beautiful soft voice say, "Yes, Bill, you're home." And she said, "My name is Antonia, and I was with you on your journey home." I didn't even realize she was in the tunnel with me. I remember saying, "You must be my guardian angel." And I felt a smile. It was beautiful. And then she announced my second guardian. And soon as he said, "Hello, Dilly," this was my brother's voice. My brother had died when I was very young. I was almost 16 years old. My brother passed away from cancer. He was the one that very much took care of me growing up. And my dad was always away on conventions doing union business and things like that. But the most wonderful thing is, as soon as he said, "Hello, Billy," I knew this was my brother Peter. And I was so joyous inside. At that time, he said, "It's time for your life review." And now he took me to this beautiful illuminated area. And now things start that is unbelievable. Now I'm back in my body. My brother Peter's alongside of me. And he's showing me events of my life. It was crystal clear, because now I'm in full form. And I really get this is where I first remember who I was again. Because I was just part of love and light and happiness and joy. But now I remember, who I was. I recognized Peter as Peter, and it was phenomenal. Probably one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. It was almost like a flickering screen. They showed me all the events of my life, all the good events of my life, all the good that I've ever done. I remember being in the ambulance one day on the way up to our station, and over the radio comes a call. It said there was a 3, that meant an emergency accident, a 341 on I-95 and 135th Street. And my partner and I was already on I-95, and we're only a couple miles away. So I grabbed the mic and I said, "This is Unit 67. We have a 2-minute ETA or less." Well, we got to the scene of this accident, and there was a young boy just sitting on the ground, and then he started yelling, "My sister, my sister." And when I looked up, my partner and I looked up, we looked back at the front of the car, and his sister's head had gone through the windshield. And Danny and I had to make a very quick decision there, because when we got close enough to her, it showed that she lost massive amounts of blood. It looked like the glass was lodged back into her head. And we said to each other, if we wait here for the fire truck to come with the cutters, she's going to bleed out. So we had to probably make one of the most important decisions in our life. Do we take her off? Do we leave her on and wait? It took us about 3 seconds to say, "Let's get her out." So we got her out. We got her in the ambulance. I tried to wrap a bandage around her head, and she was breathing normally at the time, but when we got her in the ambulance, her brother jumped in the back and was sitting in the corner of the ambulance, and he was crying his eyes out. And I didn't blame him. I mean, I was actually standing there with my hand with gauze in it, just trying to hold the top of her head down. I remember in real life me asking for God's help at that moment. And apparently when we ask for God's help, our guardians come to us. And I remember Peter's hand now alongside of mine. It was beautiful. And the beauty is we got her to the hospital, was Parkway General at the time, and it was only several minutes away. It was Pines General or Parkway General, one of the two, and they got her there, we got her in, they took her right off into the operating room, and my partner and I had left and went back to the station for the next 24 hours. I couldn't stop thinking about this whole day. And usually, we had accidents every day, but this was just horrifying. I never did this before, but before we left the next morning to go back to the station, I said, We have to go back to the hospital. I want to find out what happened to that young girl. We walk in the hospital, and one of the nurses I knew there, I said to her, what happened to the young lady that we brought in? She said, you want to go meet her? And I was ecstatic. I was just ecstatic. So she brought us up to his room, and the young girl is sitting up in bed. She's eating. She's got her whole head's wrapped up in a big bandage. It almost looked like the size of a big giant ball on top of her head. And her brother is in the room with her mother and father, and her brother said, this is the man that saved your life. And what a feeling that was. We take these feelings with us over to the other side. And this was magnificent. It was just beautiful. It's something, a gift that I could give, a service. Because every day we had some days 7 calls, some days were masses, and we were running all 24 hours. But on and on for the good. It showed me the good things I did in my life, the good things. And then all of a sudden now, they show me the wrong things that I've done in my life. You don't only know what the wrong is when you're there experiencing that, you feel the hurt and pain that you actually put onto someone else. Like, I'll never forget the feeling I had when I left my first wife, and that feeling became so emotionally strong for me now. On this side, I became her pain. I was part of the physical pain. The pain was so bad. On top of that pain being bad, the physical pain, the emotional pain that my son had. He was a little boy. And, at the time I felt myself to be young and just dumb. I call, people in life sometimes as we grow, we have to grow. And it takes time to grow. On the other side, in your life review, when you're experiencing those, wrong things or bad things you might have done in your life, and you physically become the pain, and you are the pain, it was so bad that I just screamed, I can't take it anymore, please, I'm sorry, please. And then I heard a voice, and the good outweighs the bad, and all of a sudden all this gray lust, and we were standing there, now back in spirit form. Now I look at myself, that misty green light turned into a beam. There was a beam of beautiful, beautiful light that just was amazing. And we were still conversing back and forth, Peter and I. And that's the time I was introduced to my third guardian. And they brought me to another level, Peter, and my third guardian's name was Oren. And they explained to me, this is the hall of events. I didn't understand what they were talking about. All I know is I felt like I was in this massive, beautiful auditorium. They would transport me from scene to scene, and I seen things that I was never part of. Now, they were showing me good and bad things that I've done. They were showing me events of the past. They were showing me events of the present. They were showing me events of the future. And it was unbelievable. They showed me wars that I never was even alive to be in. They showed me events that led up to, all the way up to 9/11. They showed me 9/11. We stopped at that scene. I remember saying, I have friends in that building. I have friends in that building. And almost like I went to run. And they grabbed me and they said, Bill, you can't do anything, base. You're not here now. This is your future, they explained to me. And this was emotional to me at the time, because I did have friends in the tower. Then we were whisked off again to another, and another, and another. But the first place we were whisked off after that was my mother-in-law's living room. Because on the morning of 9/11, my wife and I were scheduled to go into New York City, and then I remember my mother-in-law calling us down, and then we saw the tower. The tower is burning at the time. And this was insane, because now that I'm in my mother-in-law's room watching it alongside, I start screaming at them. And then I realized all 3 of us are sitting there. And I'm screaming There's another plane coming. Then they show me future events on top of that. These events, they led into one another. They would follow through. They brought me to Baghdad. I remember being in Baghdad because I believe it was Baghdad anyway. There was bombs going off all over. Again, I mean, instinctively, I think I went to move out of the way of the bombs, and they said, this won't hurt you, Bill. This is your future. It was so advanced that it brought us to the point where it was like our future, like almost like the things we're seeing nowadays. You know, when a lot of people don't know which direction to go in, what's right, what's wrong, people are arguing between each other. Families don't even talk to each other for politics. I mean, this is crazy. I see cities burning. They show me two outcomes at the end. They showed me a world where there was destruction. Cities were burned. It was so bad. I mean, when you can't get clean water to drink, and people are just feeding off each other like animals. Then they showed me an opposite version of that. It was like two different worlds at the same time. You know, when you're at a stage where God doesn't want you to be, we even have families and great friends not talking to each other anymore because of their politics. This has to stop. We all have to sit and come together and talk again and bring out our views, and each side has to listen. It's important that we do this because the hate that exists on the plane that exists today is too much. It's no good. It's not what God wants for this planet. It's not what God wants for our spirits. Our spirits is supposed to be love and joyous, but we're sent here. We are sent here to feel. And that's why we're here, because on the other side, our only feeling is one of complete love. And we are part of that love. And the beauty of it is here we get to feel things like pain, sorrow, anger, happiness, sad. We feel everything on this side, and this is how our spirits grow. At the end of this experience of the whole of events, a beautiful spirit approached, magnificent, sweet, glowing light, and she explains to me that I must return. I said, no, I'm not. I'm home. I'm finally home. I'm home in the light of our Lord. I'm loved. Now, don't take this away from me. I begged. I pleaded. I never forget it because I begged over and over again. Well, at the time, I had my second son in my wife's belly at home in Florida. He was about to be born. And she said to me, you must return. I said, no, again, I don't want to return. Please, please don't send me back. She mentioned me as dad. Now, I didn't know at the beginning if it was dad because of my son that was about to be born. I already had an older son, Joey, and my son, Billy, was about to be born. She said, finally, before I left, I am your future daughter. I didn't have a daughter. And the next thing I know, I was whisked back to almost like a vortex. Not as pleasing as going, but I was totally brought back. And now I'm dead. I have no feeling in my body. The only thing that I remember was I didn't have air in my lungs for I don't know how long. I just like when you drown me and you completely no oxygen for a length of time. And I took this breath in. I finally got air back in my body. But I just stood there, and now the rest of my body didn't move. The rest of my body was almost like it was paralyzed. And I'm sitting there, and I can't move, but I could finally breathe again. It was labored, but I could breathe again. And after maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so, I start feeling tingling going through my arms and my legs, and then sensation coming back. I finally was able to move a little bit, and I remember hitting the operator at the hotel and say, send somebody up here, help me. And next thing I know, I was in the hospital, and they put me on oxygen again, and they put me on medications again. And that's what happened, other than the fact that I now do have a daughter. She was born on the 6th day of the 6th month of 2000. This is years later. Remember, this was 1994. My daughter was born on June the 6th of 2000. That beautiful beam, sweet light, and she's with me today.